By 1863, the American Civil War had entered its second brutal year. The early dreams of a quick and glorious victory had vanished, replaced by the grim reality of endless marches, muddy trenches, and fields soaked in blood. The North fought to preserve the Union, the South fought for independence. But as the war deepened, its purpose evolved. It was no longer just about states' rights or political power. President Abraham Lincoln, weary yet resolute, had come to a crossroads. Thousands of Union soldiers had already died, and still the rebellion showed no sign of surrender. The president realized that the war could not simply restore the old Union, it must build a new one. And so, on January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. With the stroke of a pen, Lincoln declared that all slaves in Confederate-controlled territories were free. Though it did not immediately free every enslaved person, it transformed the war. The fight for the Union became a fight for human liberty. It ensured that European powers, particularly Britain and France, would not recognize the Confederacy, as they could not support a nation built on slavery. And for thousands of enslaved men and women in the South, it became a beacon of hope, a promise that the world had not forgotten them. Across the South, enslaved people fled plantations, seeking refuge with Union armies. Many joined the fight themselves, serving in the U. While politics shifted, the battlefield burned. In the East, the Confederacy held strong under the command of Genera, Fredericksburg and Chan, Lee's TA, but Lee knew victory could not come from defense alone. In the summer of 1863, he marched his army northward into Union territory, hoping a victory on northern soil would break the North AS spirit and perhaps force peace negotiations. His army crossed into Pennsylvania. There, in a quiet town named Get F on July 1st, 1863, on the final day, Lee ordered a bold assault. Pickey, Lee's army retreated south. The tide of war had turned. At nearly the same time, far to the west, another battle for control was being waged along the Mississippi River. General Lee, Vicksburg, the July 40. The twin Union victories, Gettysburg and Vicksburg, marked the turning point of the war. From that moment, the Confederacy was fighting. Grant's success in the West caught Lincoln's attention. Unlike many generals before him, Grant did not retreat, complain, or hesitate. He fought. Lincoln soon. In 1864, Grant launched his relentless campaign against Lee's forces in Virginia. The fighting was brutal at T. Spotsylvania, a Cold Harbor, T. Meanwhile, in the South, Jean led another Union A march to the in late 1864, cut through the heart of the Confederacy. Sherman's men destroyed railroads, factories, and crops, the very lifeblood of the Southern war effort. It was harsh, but Sherman believed that to end the war, the South had to feel its full cost. By December, Sherman reached the Atlantic and captured Savannah. The Confederacy was bleeding, its economy shattered, its armies stretched thin. In Washington, Lincoln faced his own battle, re-election. The war had dragged on for years, with staggering casualties and uncertain results. Many in the North were weary and demanded peace. But Lincoln stood firm, declaring that the war must be finished, that the Union must be restored and freedom secured. His opponent, General George McClellan, promised negotiation with the South, but voters chose Lincoln. His victory ensured the war would continue until its rightful end. As winter turned to spring in 1865, the end drew near. Confederate cities fell one by one: Atlanta, Charleston, Richmond. Food was scarce, morale was gone, and Lee's army was trapped. On April 9, 1865, at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia, General Robert E. Lee met with General Grant. There, in a small farmhouse, they spoke quietly, two soldiers, weary from years of war. Grant's terms were generous. Confederate soldiers could return home, keeping their horses and personal weapons. There would be no trials, no executions. The war was over. When Lee rode away, His men wept. The Army of Northern Virginia had fought its last battle. News of the surrender spread quickly. Across the nation, church bells rang and crowds cheered. After 4 long years, the Union had been preserved. The cost, however, was unimaginable. More than 620,000 Americans were dead, more than in any war the nation would ever fight again. Entire towns had been emptied of men. Families were shattered, cities burned, and hearts broken. Lincoln had guided the nation through its darkest storm. Now his eyes were fixed on the dawn of peace, on the monumental task of healing a wounded country. He dreamed of reconciliation, not revenge. With malice toward none, he said, with charity for all. But fate had one more cruel act to play. Just 5 days after Lee's surrender, on the evening of April 14, 1865, President Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater in Washington. There, an actor and Confederate sympathizer named John Wilkes Booth slipped into his box and fired a single bullet. Lincoln was carried across the street to a small boarding house where he died the next morning. The man who had saved the Union never lived to see it rebuilt. The North mourned deeply. The South, too, felt the weight of his death. For in that moment it became clear the war had ended, but the struggle for America's soul was far from over. The battlefields lay silent, yet the scars of war would not fade easily. The questions of freedom, equality, and justice, the very reasons for which so many had died, would now define the next great struggle, Reconstruction.